to win a gold medal in Taekwondo. No, you can't. You're a girl. I'm standing barefoot on the cold Taekwondo mat. Their silence stings more than words. I can feel their stares, as if judging me. Out of 20 students in that class, there was one girl. That was me. My classmates hesitated to spar with me. Eyebrows were raised when I landed a kick. It felt like my value, my worth, was discounted before I even started. It's like starting a game 0 to 5, with you being on the 0 side. Now that's how I felt. Expectation that lingers in the air, shaping you until you start to shrink to fit it. And that right there, that's what is implicit bias in action. Hidden bias. It's not loud. It's not hateful. It's just there. A quiet expectation that lingers in the air, shaping you until you start to shrink to fit it. And that right there is implicit bias in action. No one said I couldn't win any competitions, but I believed it anyway. Why? The reluctant side eyes, the judgmental stares, the hesitant glances, they all screamed a silent message. You're a girl, not the one we expect to win. And that's what hidden bias feels like. Implicit bias, not open discrimination, but rather hidden mental shortcuts, automatic stereotypes that shape our expectations, but without a single word being spoken. The thing about hidden bias is that it doesn't just hurt your feelings. It shrinks your potential. It slowly, quietly lowers the bar for you until you start lowering it for yourself. Sometimes the reason why we stop ourselves from putting ourselves out there is because we hold biases that hold us back. These biases, we hold biases that make us believe we're not worth enough to achieve what we want to achieve. And that's the danger of implicit bias. It doesn't shout. It whispers you into believing that you're less than what you are. So how did I, a 6-year-old child, already have the preconceived notion that all boys were stronger, faster, and better at fighting than all girls? A study across 15 different countries showed that children, even by the ages of 10, have already absorbed stereotypes and have already internalized gender stereotypes. And I'm not just talking about gender stereotypes, I'm talking about stereotypes of all sorts of bias. These stereotypes that I'm talking about could include girls seen as fragile, boys seen as risk takers, etc. Why is this so? Because children's brains are sponges. We'll hear things. It could be from our parents, could be from our peers, from random strangers on the road, and we'd absorb these pieces of information. We'll hear things and we'd absorb these stereotypes. It's like having a little plant. This little seed of preconceived notion will grow in that child's brain, and over time they'll develop into bigger and bigger stereotypes. That little seed will grow into a little plant, and they'll grow into bigger stereotypes that will eventually influence our decisions and perspectives. One cause of this also is the media. Now I'll tell you for a fact that most of what I've learned about the world has come from my screen. But the thing about social media is that it doesn't just teach. It twists, quietly feeding onto the biases you already hold until they start to feel like the truth. I'm from Mauritius, a country off Africa's coast. And I clearly remember telling my friend this in primary. Her response? Shouldn't you be black? I don't blame her though. For she'd absorbed a stereotype that all Africans were black, just like how I'd absorbed a stereotype that all boys were stronger, faster, and better at fighting than all girls. Now, I dreaded going to Taekwondo. Oh, I dreaded it. Why? Because I was worthless. I felt so worthless every time I stepped onto the sparring mat. So I trained really hard, but I couldn't beat the reluctant side eyes, the judgmental glances. And I trained so hard just to prove to myself that I wasn't bad at the sport. But still, deep down, I felt unsatisfied, less valued, worthless. So I thought to myself, perhaps if I trained really hard and maybe even won, perhaps, just maybe, I'd be seen as equal. I wouldn't have to deal with the reluctant glances, the hesitant side eyes. So I trained. And I trained, but deep down, I knew I was never going to win. Why? Because I was weaker than everyone else, because I was less valuable than everyone else, and because I was worthless. I lost the competition that day. I wanted to give up. Maybe taekwondo just wasn't for me. So that very night, I spoke to my father about it. And these were the very words that etched into my head. The only person limiting your potential is you. You're holding on to the biases that people have made about you, and you've got to let go of that. Your worth isn't defined by anyone else's bias. And right then I realized I wasn't just dealing with others' biases. I had internalized it, taking their biases as my own, accepting their assumptions as my truth. I thought, if they think I'm weak, maybe I am. If they think I'll fail, maybe I will. The thing about bias is that it doesn't just come from other people, for we carry it inside ourselves too. Sometimes we let the assumptions people have made about us seep into our beliefs about what we can or can't do. Now, the next fight I entered into wasn't about proving others wrong. It was about letting go of these assumptions that I had accepted as my truth. Realizing that when people assume things based on others, they're robbing others of their potential just as much as we're robbing ourselves of our potential when we do the same. So, just like in taekwondo, the first step is awareness. Notice stereotypes when they creep into your mind and challenge them. Your worth isn't defined by labels. I had to unlearn lies to build my own value. And I'm here today to tell you for a fact that it's inevitable that people will make assumptions about you. But this should never, ever get in the way of you achieving your dreams, your goals, your aspirations. So I stepped onto the taekwondo mat again. This time, without one thought that lingered with me since that day I spoke to my father. Your worth isn't defined by anyone else's bias. So I stood there on that taekwondo mat, barefoot, looking straight in front. And this time, with a gold medal around my neck. I didn't do anything differently. I didn't train any differently. However, this time, I knew that I was worth winning.